Hello everyone, and welcome to my tutorial on Kerbal Space Program. I decided to make this series to help anyone who's just getting into the game to help build ships and fly. Let's start by going into the VAB, or Vehicle Assembly Building, which is your main place for, well, in fact, the only place for building rockets. There's the spaceplane hangar for building spaceplanes, but that's a little more complex, so we'll get into that later. The first thing you need to do is choose a pod from one of these 9. The most simple pod is this one right here, the Command Pod Mark 1. In the demo, this is represented by the only pod available. It's basically the same. It connects to the same parts. Of course, the parts are reskinned, so it's a bit hard to tell. But still. Now, the first thing you want to do after you get the pod is attach a parachute. That parachute's too big, as is that one. This is actually a new update that just recently came out, so the parachutes are a bit different because they've been reskinned and such. The one that fits on here is the Mark 16 parachute, which again I believe is the only parachute in the demo version. After that, you want to attach some kind of... Actually, no. Before you attach fuel, you need to attach a decoupler, which will serve to separate your stages, mostly for re-entry. Next, you need to add some fuel tanks. What I usually do for the upper stage is I add 2 liquid fuel tanks and a small engine, like the LV909. And then after that, you add another decoupler. It doesn't really matter which of these 2 you select. I usually select the stack separator because it adds a shroud. And if you're going to build a larger rocket, you would add that, which is, basically it takes you from one size of rocket to another. From here, you add a giant fuel tank and a giant engine. Of course, if you just use this, your ship's going to go crazy and not work. So what you need to do is take that off temporarily, then go to the Control tab and add an Advanced SAS and an SAS. And let's dub this the Tutorial Craft. I probably spelled that wrong, but who cares? Next, and if you want to make it stable, which I do, you add these, which keep it stable before it starts flying. And let's save this and launch. Loading. There you go. As you noticed, I used liquid fuel tanks for this rocket, as they're easier to control. The only real purpose that solid booster tanks are good for is getting you off the ground. But in this case, we don't need them to get off the ground because our rocket is extremely powerful for its size. As you can see, that we launched there, and there is some wobble, but the Advanced SAS and the normal SAS cancels that out. This is a very powerful rocket with a very high mass to thrust ratio. And since it's overheating, you have to turn it down. And now I'm not going to go into orbit with this thing. That's for a later video. But just to show you this upper stage. Yeah, I don't think it's... No, it is not powerful enough to go against Kerbin's orbit. But it can in fact fire, and it separates smoothly. After you finish that, you can activate your parachute and come safely down. It's best to do this under... If you want to do it fast, you can do it under physical time warp, but beware, if you let it open while your chute is opening, it can rip off, which would not be good. For reference, your chute opens 500 meters above the land that you're going to land on. But after the chute is open, you can put physical time warp back on and let it sail safely back to the ground. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please like it and share it if other people you know want to see stuff like this. S.E.D. out!